Hey Marcelo, fantastic work on submitting this essay. It's great to see that you're committed to improving your English and taking brilliant steps towards doing so. So let's have a look at your writing. So your first piece of writing is this one on the screen. Let's look at the first paragraph. So schools are a very relevant environment for children to get educated at the same time that they learn how to socialise and interact with counterparts of the same age and different ages. In this context, it is very important to evaluate to what extent the schools should provide solely formal education, or if they are also supposed to enhance children with entertainment and joyful learning. Okay, well done. A very great use of vocabulary in that first paragraph, which is brilliant, and it's a strong start to an essay as well. So it's descriptive but not too descriptive, so that's good. Let's just see if there's anything that we need to change. The first sentence, we don't need a comma after educated. Okay. We could argue that perhaps that sentence is a little bit long because it does go on slightly. We could cut it down a little bit. So where you said the same and different ages, we could say interact with others of different ages, for example. Okay. In this context, it is very important to evaluate to what extent the schools should provide solely formal education, or if they are also supposed, with a D at the end, supposed to enhance children with entertainment and joyful learning. Okay, well done. So moving on to the next paragraph. Firstly, be careful with that typo there, so FIRSTLY. Firstly, it is well documented that the more children can get emotionally connected to the learning tasks and activities developed at schools, the more they will be able to assimilate educational content and information. Okay, good. So here we either want to say the more children can get emotionally connected, or the more a child. So one or the other. Okay. The more they will be able to assimilate educational content and information. Yeah, that's a really good structure to use, and it shows the examiner that you're using good high level structure here. For instance, if one learns a determined subject through an exciting educational game, the likeliness, so likeliness, LIKELINESS. So the likeliness of memorizing the transmitted content is much higher than only by reading it in a book instead of on a book, in a book. Okay, that is because brain areas related to emotions are strongly activated, storing the particular information in an everlasting fashion. Okay, some of those phrases don't quite sit well here. So storing the particular information long term, we could say instead. By the other hand, so this which should be on the other hand, some scholars disagree with that approach and argue that a lot of time is lost by doing so. Here we don't need the comma, okay, because we've already got a conjunction here, so and, we don't need the comma. This more orthodox treatment of education as a mere formal intellectual activity is usually encountered in religious schools, where a sense of rigid duty and self-restraint is encouraged. Okay, so this sentence has started to get a little bit wordy, meaning that it started to get a little bit too long, and with a lot of points packed into it. So what we need to change here is, first of all, more instead of mere. Intellectual has two L's in the middle. Intellectual activity is usually encountered in religious schools where a sense of rigid duty and self-restraint is encouraged. Okay, so is there a way that you can change maybe a sense of rigid duty and self-restraint? It's a great phrase, but is it perhaps too long here? So that, like I said, this has started to become quite a long sentence there. So we could say, for example, is usually encountered in religious schools where restraint is encouraged, perhaps. In this environment, so no S, quietness and a devotion to reading and writing as a independent function, perhaps, instead of lonely, or lone function, say something that you do by yourself. And be careful of the spelling of function, so T-I-O-N at the end instead of I-T-O-N, outweigh the importance of excitement and joy that one can more easily find in secular schools. Okay, well done. Good. Alright then. So, good. The last one then, concluding, different styles of education. Instead of concluding, it may be best here to use in conclusion. Different styles of education will determine the role of entertainment. Be careful with the spelling. E-N-T-E-R-T-A-I-N-M-E-N-T, and pleasure, spelling again, so P-L-E-A-S-U-R-E, in learning activities. A more orthodox approach will defavour it, whereas a substantively liberal and progressive one will encourage it. What I think we should have here is substantially, so S-U-B-S-T-A-N-T-I-A-L-L-Y, substantially liberal and progressive one will encourage it. Okay, good. What you could do here in your conclusion is to possibly give your own opinion and reason why that is your opinion. As a general rule, I would say be careful with some of your sentences. Most of them are very good. Some of them just start to get a little bit too long. So just think, if this sentence is getting too long, is there a way that I can split it into 2 sentences, or is all of this sentence necessary? But a really good piece of work there, well done. Let's go on to your second piece now. So the first paragraph, developing enjoyable activities where the child is paramount for his or her improvement, allowing for the achievement of better skills and creativity. By the other hand, reading is also a fundamental task, enhancing mental strength and the perception of their surroundings. This essay will analyse and illustrate with examples the 2 propositions and conclude by indicating the one considered as probably the better for the infant's outcome. Okay, well done. So a good approach to the question there. You've outlined both arguments and then explained what you're going to do, so that's good. Let's see if there's anything that we need to change. So, first of all, developing enjoyable activities where the child is paramount for his or her improvement, allowing for the achievement of better skills and creativity. Okay, so that is a good opening sentence. Well done. Next phrase, this one, by the other hand. This was in the previous essay as well, so remembering that it's on the other hand. Okay, so on the other hand, reading is also a fundamental task, enhancing mental strength and the perception of the surroundings. Okay, good. This essay will analyse and illustrate with examples the 2 propositions, no comma here, and conclude by indicating the one considered as probably the better for the infant's outcome. Be careful with infants, because we need it to be possessive here. So if you're talking about one infant, it would be infant apostrophe S. If you're talking about all infants, it would be A-N-T-S apostrophe. Okay, so it depends which one you were going for. Another bit of spelling as well is just further up in achievement, which should have an extra E in the middle, so A-C-H-I-E-V-E-M-E-N-T on that one. Okay, good. This part here, so the one considered as probably the better for the infant's outcome, this one is a little bit too vague for an essay. So, and conclude by indicating the one considered the better for the infant's outcome instead of as probably. Okay. Let's move on then slightly. So firstly, it is well established that a dynamic environment to which child can actively interact with. Okay, so this one, so instead of to which a child can actively interact with, we would say with which a child can actively interact, is very relevant in the sense that it requires the young person to deal with external challenges and construct appropriate responses for them. Okay, this one, quite a long sentence there, so it spans over four lines just. Be careful with that, like we said before. See if you can divide that possibly into 2 sentences to make it a little bit more digestible. Okay. Also, we've got spelling here in requires, so R-E-Q-U-I-R-E-S. Okay. We could, for example, divide this sentence just here, so between is very relevant and in the sense that, so full stop after relevant, and we could start the next sentence with this is because it requires the young person to deal with external challenges, etc. Okay, good. The next one is, so for instance, proposing a cake baking activity will demand a child a wide range of responsibility and abilities. Here we need to take out the child and so will demand a wide range of responsibility and abilities by making all ingredients available and managing the time and resources needed in order to get an adequate final product. Okay, good. Again, quite a long sentence here, so we're spanning over 3 lines again, so try and make that a little bit more concise. You could possibly divide it after demand a wide range of responsibility and abilities. Okay, so maybe this is by this is by having to make all the ingredients available, etc. Okay, and then at the end, in that sense, it would be a powerful exercise in order to develop practical skills and stimulate creativity. Good, so bring it back to the question, which is good. Moving on then, so on the other hand, as we said, instead of by the other hand, on the other hand, some other more abstract ideas, such as the universal history of mankind. Be careful with universal, no N in the middle, so UNIVERSAL, history of mankind, and the functioning, 1 N at the end, functioning, of the solar system are the ones that can be better learned and assimilated through reading activity. In that field, more practical activities, although complementary as going to a museum, are insufficient. Spelling here, so insufficient has 2 F's, so INSUFFICIENT. Therefore, depending on the subject matter to be learnt, a more theoretical approach and method can be considered to be superior. Okay, well done, good. Yeah, no other problems there really. It's good. Again, watch your sentence length, where the first one is a little bit long perhaps, so is there a way you could make that a little bit shorter? And your conclusion, so be that as it may, I believe that striking the right balance between pleasant activities that are more practical and sweat of the brow ones, well done, great phrase, which are more theoretical, is fundamental for a comprehensive and complete learning system. Well done. That's a really, really strong conclusion. Let's just bring it up the screen slightly. Your use of be that as it may is good. However, it is tempting to say that this would be better in a paragraph rather than at the beginning of a conclusion. Okay, for your conclusion, we normally would use something like in conclusion or overall or in the summary, okay, or even something like having looked at both sides. I believe that, okay, but some really great phrases in here. Your use of striking the right balance is good. and sweat of the brow ones, which is good to see you using a more idiomatic phrase and putting it in quotation marks as well to show that it's an idiomatic phrase that you're using in your essay. But yes, really very good, very encouraging for early activity, so really well done. What I would say on the whole is be careful of your spelling. So if there are words that you find particularly difficult to spell, or ones that maybe you don't remember so well, maybe make a list of those ones and review those. And also your sentence length. Be careful that they don't get too long, because sometimes we can lose your good points in the length of a sentence. You want to make sure that it's nice and concise and to the point. Okay, really, really great work. Really well done.